of stopping a resurgent pest that could devastate the nation's cattle industry, that according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 80 points, the Nasdaq rose 220, the S&P advanced 21. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Jane Dawson did something smart. She saved hundreds on auto insurance switching to Progressive. With the money she saved, she got herself a pricey bird feeder with an ultra-high-def camera. Should Jane have just bought a regular bird feeder? Yes. Is it hard for her to admire nature when the camera doubles as the bird's potty? Also, yes. But it's Jane's savings, and if she wants to spend her time watching the digestive habits of the white-breasted nuthatch, we say you go, girl. Switch and see if you could save with Progressive and treat yourself. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu. My Computer Career, an elite CompTIA certification partner.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
U.S. consumers appear...
Hey, low water crossing. Stop the car.
Nah, I'm going to drive right through it.
Oh, not with me, you're not.
In Texas, low water crossings fill up fast. Your vehicle can be swept away in 2 feet of water.
Let's just turn around and go a different way.
And be late for the party? No, I'm driving across it. What are you doing?
I'm getting out.
Wait. Hey, I've got an idea. How about we turn around, go a different way, and be late for the party?
You are so smart.
Turn around. Don't drown. A message from TxDOT.
Does your company need to be compliant with U.S. Coast Guard 2022-0802? Do you require an independent third-party vendor for penetration testing? If you do, call Tactical Cyber Services at 713-229-0030 or go online to tacticalcyberservices.com. They can work with your Internet IT group or security vendor like Witt O'Brien to make sure your documentation is compliant. Call 713-229-0030 today.
Graybeard here, radio, show host, and solar broker. I host a show called SolarWise, heard right here on Saturday at 8 a.m. on the Voice of Texas, KSEV. And listen, this Saturday, we're going to be talking about a brand new program. Imagine getting solar and 3 batteries with 60,000 watt hours of storage. Imagine getting all of that with no money out of your pocket, no debt in your name. It's not a lease. There's no loan, and it's all underwritten by a company owned by Shell Energy. You're going to want to know about this program. I can share some information with you right now if you text NEW on your smartphone to 84503. Key that 84503 number in, and then just text NEW. Or, better yet, join me this Saturday at 8 a.m. right here on KSEV, the Voice of Texas, AM 700. You're not going to want to miss this, especially if you've been solar curious. Text NEW to 84503.
Tune in this Saturday for the new Check a Pro America's Tax Lien Show with Ted Thomas and your host, Jim Cloud. This and every Saturday at 2 p.m. here on AM 700 KSEV and AM 1540 KGBC and streaming online at KSEVradio.com, the voice of Texas.
I started my first business when I was 12, mowing lawns for about $5 a yard. I learned if you do the job right, people trust you and customers care that you show up and do what you say you're going to do. Hi, I'm Tommy Mello, owner of Garage Door Doctor. From garage door repairs to upgrades, we show up, we stand behind every job. We only use the best parts and springs guaranteed to last a lifetime. When you care about the people you serve, you work harder and it shows. Call Garage Door Doctor today or schedule online at garagedoordoctor.biz.
Garage Door Doctor. Texas isn't just a place, it's a feeling. We take pride in the way we treat each other, both on and off the road. So drive like a Texan, kind, courteous, and safe. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Transportation.
Where should I begin?
Can we talk about this?
Say, what are you trying to say?
Beyond the usual controversial talk.
Blah, 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 on and on and on. Over there.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha.
Prepare yourself for Craig.
Okay. Preparing a mighty new spectacle here.
Articulate, stimulating, hit you right in the... there you go.
We start becoming a team right now.
This is the Craig Collins Show.
Oh, yeah. Lord Jesus. Oh, God, no.
Start talking. Talk fast.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Now your host.
He's a good man.
Craig.
That's right. It is the Craig Collins Show. KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. Thrilled to be with you. So much stuff out there to talk about. Producer Phil is hanging out, answering the phones. If you call in and you get to him, be nice. And then you get on the air, you get to me. That's what I usually say. Tell him what you do want to talk about, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to kick off the show differently than I had planned to. And this is partly because of how Chris X handled some information that I provided him during his show, which is that we've sent a few requests to the GOP here in Texas because they'll be doing their convention on Thursday and Friday in Houston. We are a radio station in Houston that has quite a bit of political relevance in the world of the GOP. And actually, I forgot to put my camera on, so there's my camera for anyone watching on any of the live streams. But nonetheless, they, for some reason, and granted, we sent in the first request, I would admit, somewhat late. Our station last week decided to try to go after this. So I think it must have been Monday or Tuesday of last week, not today, that we sent in our first request, nothing. Second request, nothing. Some other requests, nothing. And I don't know. And I think I heard Chris talking about this a little bit. And I don't know that he actually did see the form that you fill out. There was a section where it asked if we were willing to buy a table, and we said no. As press, we wanted to not do that part. We don't need to be at the whole event either. I think we want to broadcast just during our shows, which would be Chris X's show, 4 to 6 o'clock on Thursday, and then 6 to 7 o'clock would be my show on Thursday, the Craig Collins Show. For anyone that thinks it's called Chris Collins, I'm amused by that. There's quite a few people, and we have a Chris morning show, a Chris afternoon show. I am willing to change my name to Chris if that is better for all involved, and we can be the Chris's and just have all three of us do it. That's totally fine. But nonetheless, we would like to broadcast live from that event, and we haven't heard back. And actually, one of the callers who called Chris's show didn't want to go on air but was off air, said there's always press passes, press badges, all kinds of stuff to those types of events. Yes, that's true. For some reason, we haven't been told we can have some yet. I assume we'll get told that at some point. We are getting fairly close to the event, but we'd like to go. We'd like to promote it. We'd like to interview some of the people there. I saw that Benny Johnson is now going to be the MC of it, which I thought was interesting. Certainly a big name, a podcast guy. It wouldn't have been terrible to have a Houston-based radio person do that. I'm not saying me. I'm just saying somebody in the area that's not Benny Johnson. No offense. He's great. He's awesome. Would have loved to see a little bit more Houston thrown in there, but it didn't happen. And now, for whatever reason, we can't even seem to get through the door to broadcast. And Chris did mention this a couple times, so I will mention it too. There is another station in town that appears to be broadcasting their one local show from that event, but they'll be at a booth that somebody else paid for. And we don't want to do that either. Like, we have friends. You know what's funny about this? This is the last thing I'll say about this, and I haven't gone down this road on purpose. I know we know people. I know this radio station knows a lot of people because of, the individuals who are in charge at said radio station. I didn't want to ask for any favors. I wanted to go the normal road through the normal channels to whoever gets the emails that you send in, the normal places, and I assumed we'd get it back that way. I didn't want to jump the line, essentially, is what I'm saying. So I didn't ask anybody that's within our group for help, I guess, until now, until I mentioned it to Chris, and then we started talking about it on the radio. I guess now we're sort of probably going to try to work some of those angles. It's just sort of disappointing that you do. I think the main reason that maybe the show before me and my show are talking about this is the level of disappointment you have by being a prominent radio station in this market, in this city, and not being given access to an event like that. This is the second time I've dealt with this in the last few weeks. KSEV Radio did not get access to the FIFA World Cup, and I was really surprised by that. I had requested some stuff, some other ways that I can get, certain privileges via media connections I have, and I actually did wind up getting some access that way. But I went through KSEV first, my own show here and my own email here, and they just ignored it. And there's something sort of amazing, or I think disappointing, and this is not the intent of the show today, but darn it, we're here and we're doing it, about discrediting the value of local talk radio, especially in a market as big as Houston, the 5th biggest market in the country. There's a mistake that gets made by those who do that, who discredit the value, the reach, the significance of talk radio. Compared to what you do in the podcast space or anywhere else, all those things have audiences. Who knows who those audiences are? Sometimes I tell this to people when you talk about like anybody, whether it's Benny Johnson or anyone else, and they have millions and millions of people who download their show. Are all those people even from the United States? Sometimes the data says they're not. So it's confusing to know what the actual reach is, valuable reach of some of those platforms that go well beyond our community, well beyond our city, well beyond the signal of this radio station. We know that anybody who listens to the radio portion of our show by tuning it on a car or somewhere is here in the Houston community. We know that. Most radio stations that do this, they know those sort of things. So there is a benefit to knowing who our listeners are compared to not necessarily knowing all that well in the world of digital media. You know, to a certain extent. I'm not pretending you don't know some of the data, but some of it's skewed. And a whole lot of people use a fake information to simulate they're somewhere that they're not. So you really don't know. But anyway, I just think some of that is disappointing. But hopefully we'll figure it out. Hopefully we'll get it done. And hopefully by, tomorrow or even Wednesday, we'll be able to tell you that we are going to be broadcasting live on Thursday from the Texas GOP here in Houston. Which will be a fun thing. And I'll probably even collect some audio for my Friday show, too, if we're given that access. And then we can air some things on Friday as well, some additional conversations that maybe you don't hear on Thursday as part of the Friday show. I will be taking Friday off. I'll just throw that out here on a Monday at the beginning of the week. I will be attending a event, a family friend event, and I won't be able to be here. So you will hear a best of or potentially extended coverage of the GOP convention if we're allowed to have access. All right, I want to start somewhere that I probably shouldn't start in the world of politics, but I just find it so amazing. Stephen A. Smith had a rant about President Trump going to Madison Square Garden tonight. Even Whoopi Goldberg has said that it's okay that Trump wants to attend the Knicks game because he's a Knicks fan and a New Yorker who went to games for years during the 90s. When the team did make the finals twice and lost both times in 94 to the Rockets and then in 99 to the Spurs. A Texas team seemed to be very good at beating the New York Knicks. So far, not the case for the Spurs this year, but you never know. We're only 2 games in, and Wemby has said he's going to dominate tonight. I think he basically said that in some interviews. But I just find the obsession with Trump going and the claims that people are upset about it and social media individuals who are complaining are probably not going, and there's going to be like a 2-hour wait to get in because there'll be TSA-style security because multiple people have tried to kill the president. But nonetheless, all of this has caused Stephen A. Smith to say if the Knicks lose, it's Trump's fault. I thought that was hilarious.
Descending upon the visitors, trying to bring home a championship, and I'm going to close by saying this. If they lose tonight, I'm looking right at him. I'm saying it. This is just me. I'm blaming him. I'm blaming the president of the United States of America if the New York Knicks lose this tonight. It is selfish. No. There is no reason for any president, because of the congestion and the security measures that have to be invoked in order to ensure his safety. There is no president that should be showing up to a game like tonight in New York City.
Yes, they should.
Nobody. If it were Obama, I'd say the same damn thing. This is not the place for the president to be coming.
I think this is hilarious that Stephen A. Smith is going that road the way he is. And as I said, even Whoopi Goldberg seemed to say that, you know what, Trump is a Knicks fan. So Trump is allowed, like anyone else is allowed, to go to the game. She was defending Mamdani, too, because, of course, the mayor of New York will have his own security detail and whatnot in order for him to get in. But here, I'll play this, too. This is Whoopi saying that Trump went to a bunch of games back in the 90s and whatnot. He's a New Yorker. He was a longtime resident of the city, so he has every right, like everybody else, to go. This made the other ladies on The View very mad, but she said it, darn it, and she stood by it.
I'm sorry. Trump and Mayor Mamdani are Knicks fans and have been. They're New Yorkers. And you can't, there's nothing either one of them can do to change what's happening in this city for this team. They can, you know, they're there. Okay, there's a lot
jinx us?
There's a lot of, you know what? I don't think anything can jinx anything. I think these guys are on a mission.
They are on a mission.
On a mission. They're like the Blues Brothers. They're on a mission from God. And they have been winning and doing everything. And, you know, you could be buck naked up in the box and ain't nobody paying attention.
Nobody cares.
Oh, dear God, I hope that doesn't happen.
I do love everybody saying no to that. But even Whoopi Goldberg seems to understand the thing that it's the New York Knicks, that if you're a fan of a team, if they haven't been to the finals in 20-plus years, if they haven't won a finals, an NBA championship since 73, you get to go. You deserve to go. Why not go? And the president going actually should be a boon. And by the way, this is the last thing I'll say about this, and we'll play some other audio, and eventually we'll take our first commercial break. It is ridiculous for Stephen A. to pretend that when Obama was the president, remember when he used to do his March Madness bracket, and everybody would show up at the White House and they'd talk to him about how great at basketball Obama himself was? That was a talking point. It's like, you can hoop. And Obama's like, yeah, I can hoop a little bit. If President Obama had gone to an NBA Finals game while he was sitting in that office, media would have freaking loved it. Left-leaning, all of that media, they would have applauded him. They would have said how much more high-profile the event is. They would have begged him to be on the court. That's the way they treated that president. Most media did. So there is no scenario on God's green earth where Stephen A. or anyone else would be saying, don't show up, President Obama. But of course, most of these people hate Trump. And so when they talk about President Trump specifically and him going to an event, there's no avenue of the sitting president will be at a NBA Finals game, just like he goes to the Super Bowl, just like he attends other events, and that should elevate the level of status that the event has because the leader of the country will be there. No, that's not how it works, simply because it's Trump. They know that. I know that. But I do think it's fascinating that this became such a talking point so many places today. Game 3 of the finals is tonight. The Knicks should not have won Game 2, and they did. Wemby threw the ball away at the end of the game, and that was probably embarrassing for the young, very, very good player that will probably be in the finals again. I know this isn't a sports show. I'm not intent to do a whole lot of sports stuff. I will say this, though. The NHL playoffs, the Stanley Cup, also incredible. Game 3 that happened, I think, on Saturday night was ridiculous. And the fact that it went to like double overtime before there was a winner was insane. And that there were 6 goals scored by one team in the second period, but 2 of them were taken away. And then 4 goals scored by the other team. The Vegas Knights did it in the second, and then the Carolina Hurricane did it in the third. Ridiculous, just insane sports. And it was so interesting to go from Friday NBA Finals and a very good game that didn't end until the last couple minutes, last couple seconds. And then you go to a Stanley Cup that was ridiculous, 2 overtimes, and then Sunday, nothing. I'm a sports guy and I'm a baseball fan. Even the Yankees and the Red Sox could have played Sunday Night Baseball, but they didn't. But it was weird to have 2 big and successful and right now very interesting finals events happening, and nobody scheduled a game on Sunday. I read that the NBA did that partially because it allowed them to line up the rest of the games to not contend with the World Cup. Had they had a Sunday night game and done their typical break days, they would have inevitably had a game that would have happened the same day as opening night of the World Cup. I guess for some reason the NBA thought that was a bad idea. But I agreed with anyone that was complaining that last night sports in general, maybe not baseball so much, but a lot of sports, missed an opportunity to have a pretty decent viewing Sunday night audience that was looking for more after Friday and Saturday were so interesting, so good. All right, the other thing that's out there, this is fully political, this doesn't dance at all in the world of sports, is President Trump and Kristen Welker. So many parts of this were such a great interview and such an interesting thing to watch him do. Of course, the ending, of course, the screw this, I'm going home, you're not treating me fairly part of the conversation got a lot of the publicity and a lot of the coverage. It was not the only part of the conversation that was good. I will play it, though, just so you hear the thing. I think it's talked about everywhere. I do love that he even stepped on the microphone as he was leaving. That is a unique version of dropping the mic and going home. Here's a little bit of this.
Evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk
your
about
elections in this country. We're like a third world country. Your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC and CBS and CNN.
Yeah, baby.
One-sided crooked networks. All right, let's call it quits because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, let's please. I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know.
I've sat in the rain with you for an hour, on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press because you know what?
Mr.
A country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we traveled all the way
Let's
to
go, guys.
Wisconsin for this interview.
And then there he is stepping on the mic right at the end there. And it's over. It's done. Look, some people on the left or some people in certain media places said that Trump was being a baby. But he actually sat down for an entire hour, had a long-form conversation. Everything he said, Kristen Welker objected to. There were even moments where she said there's no proof of that, but wasn't specific what he was even talking about that she thought there was no proof of. There is proof of a certain amount of things that Trump is complaining about being legitimate problems, especially when it comes to the voter rolls in California themselves. This might be something that a lot of people don't know, but I do think it's pretty interesting. You do not need an ID to vote in California. You actually don't need anything remotely close to an ID. Do you know that you can use the statement from a utility bill as one of the ways to prove that you're who you say you are? You don't have to actually have a photo that matches the name on the utility bill. You can just bring in the bill and be like, that's me. Can I vote now? And they let you vote. There's a bunch of ways that you can claim that you're who you say you are. And even when you mail in a ballot, and my cousin, I was talking about this on his show, the Vince Colonnese show that airs on this radio station at noon every single day till 1, you can write your own postmark on the envelope. And as long as that postmark is legible, if the one that actually is created by the post office is not, if it's smudged, then they'll go ahead and trust that you mailed your ballot the day that you say you did, regardless of what it actually says from the post office if they claim they can't read it. Legitimate ballot. That's why it's still taking till tomorrow to finish counting all of the votes. One of the reasons it's taking till at least tomorrow to finish counting all the votes that have gone in California. It's insane that it can take that long. It makes no logical sense. There's no good reason for it. The only reason that it would take this long to do this is if you want to cheat. And suddenly, by the way, and I think this is probably the best question being asked right now, Spencer Pratt got absolutely no votes from, I think it was last night to this morning. And then as soon as the person in third place jumped into second, everybody claimed that Pratt was out. The person that people were most interested in seeing potentially run in the mayor race, not that I think Pratt has a legitimate chance of actually winning this thing, but Ramon jumped in front of him, and then she is now being thought of to have won. I thought that was really interesting that they immediately called it when Ramon jumped in front of Spencer Pratt, even though there's still about 20-something% left to be counted from last I saw. But nonetheless, they actually think she's a bigger threat to Karen Bass because she's insanely lefty, and California might actually pick someone even more progressive than Karen Bass is. But it's just amazing to think that there's all these ways that you could fairly easily game the system in a state as broken as California is, and that for some reason whatsoever, President Trump saying that out loud is the worst thing they've ever heard in their lives. That the people who heard that part of the interview need to be told immediately by Meet the Press and by Kristen Welker that there's no proof to this whatsoever. How dare you even say that out loud, because it's terrible and horrible and you're an awful person. I do want to play more of that Trump interview. I should take a break, so I'll get to what I actually thought was the most interesting moment within the interview that was not actually him storming off at the end. There was something more beneficial, a question that he answered that I think you have to hear, but that's coming up next. This is the Voice of Texas, KSEV, KGBC, and the Craig Collins Show. More after this.
When it comes to garage doors, no one knows more than the doctor. Garage door doctor.
We got a call late New Year's Eve. A father with big plans for his family the next day said his garage door spring just snapped. He couldn't get his car out and wouldn't be able to get his family to where they needed to go. He felt stuck and alone. So we showed up fast with the right spring and the right parts to fix it right. We didn't talk about the price. We didn't wait till the morning. We fixed it right then. Because at Garage Door Doctor, it's never just about the job. It's about the person behind it. The dad, the veteran, the grandpa, the neighbor. Hi, I'm Tommy Mello, owner of Garage Door Doctor. When you need help, we're the ones that show up. Call Garage Door Doctor today or schedule online at garagedoordoctor.biz. We fix garage doors fast with quality parts designed to last a lifetime because we're proud to serve the people who rely on us.
When it comes to garage doors, no one knows more than the doctor. Garage door doctor.
If you have roof problems, you can sure see them when it rains. This is Deb Tejada from Tejas Roofing. If you see a leak, call me immediately, 281-251-0304. I'll send over the Tejas Roof Repair truck.
That truck has everything our experienced crew needs to fix your roof, right then and there.
The Tejas Roofing crew has been working together fixing leaky roofs for 15 years.
It's not a pretty truck, but it has everything we need to get the job done. I kind of like the way it looks.
Most roofing repairs cost less than $500. Why? Because we find the cause of the leak and repair that leak. We won't try to sell you services you don't need.
And we'll fix it right away because everything we need is in our truck.
Don't put off fixing a leaky roof. Call me at Tejas Roofing and I'll send over the truck. 281-251-0304. When you think of roofing repairs or a new roof, think Tejas Roofing, your Houston roofing company. 281-251-0304. That's Tejas Roofing, 281-251-0304.
This is Kevin O'Hara with O'Hara & Company Real Estate. Our country's founding fathers drafted a document that is the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. My friends at O'Hara & Company Real Estate, we believe we're at a precipice in time where we must take back our country. We must stand up for our freedoms or lose them forever. Please don't sit idle and let it slip away. Don't let anyone force you to do something you choose not to. As JFK said, if not us, who? If not now, when? If you're looking to buy or sell real estate, give O'Hara & Company Real Estate a call at 281-373-3393, 281-373-3393, or look us up on the web at o'harare.com. I'm Kevin O'Hara. God bless America, and God bless Texas.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the Voice of Texas. I told you I wanted to play what I thought was actually the most interesting moment in the conversation with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press from President Trump. He talked about the anti-weaponization fund and the amount of people that were thrown in the hoosegow, thrown in jail after January 6th, that did very little actually wrong compared to what they were accused of doing and the amount of time that they were told they were going to serve in prison before Trump pardoned all of them. I thought this was a really interesting back and forth. I know that a lot of Republicans said they don't want Trump to have access to money that he can dole out to these individuals because it's taxpayer dollars and we don't want to spend that much. I think that that's a bit short-sighted, to say the very least. And I think Democrats calling it a slush fund is even more ridiculous. But here, let's play the audio first and then I'll weigh into it. I really thought this was probably the most valuable moment and something that a lot of people are not talking about as much as him simply storming off.
They had FBI agents ushering them into the building. They had FBI go into the building. Those people walking around, they're looking, oh, isn't this nice? They weren't in. They were being ushered into the building.
There's no evidence of that.
You had a bunch of dirty cops, and frankly, what they did was weaponization of our government.
But sir, there's no evidence of that. More than 1,000 people.
No, there's none. You know what you do? Try looking at the tapes one time.
Would you take it off
Look
the
at
table?
the tapes one time.
But 172 people did plead guilty to assaulting police officers.
You know why they pled guilty?
Should they be exempt?
Because they told they were going to jail for 15 years if they didn't.
Should they?
They pled guilty because they were frightened. They went down. They were ushered into a building. Many of them were arrested without even going into the building.
Okay with them receiving taxpayer dollars?
The people were destroyed by dirty cops and by weaponization. Many of those people should be compensated. Now, with that being said, as I understand it, the weaponization fund was going to set up a group of people, people that could be picked by anybody, fair people, smart
people, intelligent,
and they
the best.
Will go on an individual case basis.
See, that's the part I love the most, by the way. Individual case basis. Talk about what someone actually did compared to what the punishment was for the crime that they actually committed, if they committed any crime at all, and then see whether or not it's ridiculously unfair and if that person deserves some amount of money. It bears mentioning, as part of the demonstration of proof that what Trump is saying is in fact true, a person back in 2022 proved that they were let in by a cop, that somebody like opened the door and let this person in. They just so happened to have their own GoPro camera record this instance. That person got their charges dropped because they had a recording letting them in. Obviously, we don't think they're the only person who was let into the facility, but even more so than that, there's been reporting, genuine reporting about the amount of plainclothed FBI agents who were part of the crowd that day. And what they were exactly doing there is a question that most of us know the answer to. So a lot of people do deserve some level of recognition for how ridiculous the punishment was and how little it fit the crime. A little more of this.
Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the weaponization fund. I love the idea because people like you, the fake, dirty press, the crooked press, people like stupid.
Dirty.
He's not smart enough to know what's going on, but people that surrounded him, surrounded his beautiful, resolute desk in the Oval Office. What they did to the lives of people, they destroyed people. They sent people to jail who did nothing wrong.
All right, just to be very clear, there's no evidence of what you're saying, but
There's
let me
a
ask
lot
you
of
about
evidence.
Todd Blanche. Let me ask you about Todd Blanche.
Listen to me.
This is crazy, too. This is one of several moments where Kristen Welker is just saying categorically everything you said is a lie without even the specificity necessary to object to things the way that journalists are supposed to say that, this specific thing you're saying is disproven by this fact that I prepared for this conversation. She doesn't have that. She just said, overarchingly, everything that you said is a lie, regardless of what it was. And a bunch of it is definitely not a lie. There's some opinion rolled in there for sure, but there's a lot of things that have been easily verified as facts via the video and also the simple reporting and the information that we now have after Trump took over the White House and the people he put in charge of things like the FBI told us the amount of plainclothes agents who were there, who were a part of this. There was one other just amusing moment that I like. Trump called Kristen Welker a big liberal lefty, a big progressive. She said no to that, and he said, come on now.
You said it over and over again, Mr.
Why would I build a military? Now, I didn't want to use this, but I'm doing you and everybody else a big favor. In the midst of the greatest stock market in history, in the midst of the most successful country, because as you know, in the last term, we were a dead country, Kristen. I know you're a big liberal or a big progressive.
No, I'm just a journalist.
We were a dead country. A year ago, a couple of years ago, we were a dead country. Now we have the hottest country.
She's just a journalist. By the way, I do enjoy something else. This is totally shifting gears. But the other person, the other journalist who's very much in the news right now is Scott Pelley. And there's a ridiculous amount of, I don't even know what clip to play, to be honest with you, a ridiculous amount of clips that are going viral from his interview where he basically cried on television when he said that he was just a journalist and, an amazing man himself who deserved to be thought of as more than someone who gets fired when you mouth off to your brand new boss. Usually a mistake, by the way, as I talked about on the Friday show. If someone takes over the company that you work at, they call an all-staff meeting to introduce themselves and to talk about the plan they have moving forward. They're the boss now. There's no way to change that. The worst thing you can do in that all-staff meeting is tell them to shove it. And that's basically what Pelley did. He got fired for that. And now he's upset that among the things that Trump accused him of being is someone who's, not really an American. That's probably the most interesting piece of audio to play because he basically sobs on television because he's a journalist, darn it. And he's someone who has integrity that you could only dream of I'll play this. This is ridiculous. And it's so pompous. It's so full of yourself. It's so everything that's wrong with the elites that think that they are more important than you and me, more important than everyday people, media individuals who walk around and anoint themselves all kinds of ridiculous things that probably feel as though they matter a whole bunch more than you do, and they tell you the truth because nobody else, whatever it might be, Pelly's among that group of just horrible people that think that they're in charge of the narrative and they can make it whatever they want. And if you accuse them of lying, they'll tell you, how dare you, sir? I'm just doing journalism and the country a favor.
Also said you were part of this gang of stupid, crooked people that don't care about your country.
Stupid, I can take that. Stiff,
Okay.
yeah, probably. Don't care about the country.
This is ridiculous.
I've never worn the uniform,
No, you have not.
but I've been in combat for this country
No, you have not.
in Afghanistan and Iraq,
No.
Kuwait.
He has been in places where combat was happening. I think there's a really important distinction about this. I'm not saying that Scott Pelley didn't go places that were dangerous. He did. As a journalist, as someone who wanted to cover military things that were happening, and he's naming the military conflicts, he was there. But the gigantic, gigantic difference between the press and the men and women who serve and protect this country is that Scott Pelley is allowed to leave whenever he wants. He's allowed to go toward whatever event he wants, say no to whatever he wants. He has full autonomy and control of himself, where he stands, how he chooses to run away if danger starts to happen, if bullets start flying. He has every ability to not engage the enemy, has no gun handed to him, none of those things. He's not in combat because he's not fighting. And for him to say that out loud is so utterly disrespectful, so ridiculously, full of yourself. But let him continue.
Been shot at. Spent nights in foxholes, filling up with water in the desert. I'm not aware that the President of the United States has ever done any of those things for his country. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You become a journalist because you love the First Amendment. You become a journalist because you love the country. And while all the other descriptions that the president used about me might be applicable,
he's an idiot.
Not that one.
Not that one. This is the most performative piece of crap that I've ever seen, and he's struggling. I actually didn't stop it here. I'll go back to it.
There is no democracy without journalism. It can't be done.
I'll tell you this, and I'll tell you this as candidly as I can before we take a second break. We come back in a little bit. I will do some fun stuff because, darn it, we have to have fun. Maybe I'll play one more clip, actually, before we do that. I think right now, in the society we currently live in, there are independent journalists who are living up to this description that Scott Pelley is giving to the value of journalism itself, the value of telling the truth when no one else is doing it. That is a thing that does matter. And you are seeing people do this. Nick Shirley is a great example. Sure, I'm positive people would say he's a convenient example for a conservative radio show because he outed Democratic corruption. But on the surface, the simplistic version of what Pelley did, what Nick Shirley did, is he found out about a thing where people were accusing a whole bunch of Somalian daycares and whatnot in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, of being fraudulent, and he showed up and he knocked on those doors. He stood in front of those places with a camera. That is something that great journalists used to do, and they don't do it anymore. So many journalists don't chase truth when it's so apparently in front of their face, the path, the way in which you do it. It's so easy. It's so simple to do this. So few of them do it. I think independent journalists right now are not putting themselves above the story. They actually are still humble to a certain extent. I imagine maybe at some point anyone might get somewhat full of themselves if their audience starts to grow a whole lot. Hopefully not, though. I actually remember this. This is a side note, but I'll put it out there. It's connected to what I'm saying. Bill Murray would be asked all the time what it's like to be a super famous person, because Bill Murray is a super famous person. And I really like the quote he gives. I don't know when he first started saying this, but he said, for a few years, when you first become famous, you're going to be a bleep. You're going to be a piece of crap. And then after that, you have to come back to being not a piece of crap, being a regular person, being the person you were before you were famous, or you never go back at all. He said it's that first trip into like superstardom where you get to choose who you're going to be. And a whole lot of people choose to be a piece of crap for the rest of their life. And then once you're really there, once you're living there, you can never turn that thing around. Scott Pelley is the journalistic version of that. He's someone who thinks he's more important than the story. He couldn't even, force himself to work for these terrible people who were in charge of 60 Minutes and CBS News when other people got fired. He wasn't fired. He was allowed to keep having his job. But how dare you infuse your opinion into my opinion version of news? It's just so crazy. But there are so many people who are deserving of that description of being someone who is telling us the truth when nobody else is. That's not an example of current versions of most news media. They're giving you their opinion, and they're pretending that they're not. They're pretending it's not a deep-seated part of their coverage. The best example possible in this rant I'm doing is the 60 Minutes discussion where Bari Weiss decided that in order to run a story, which they did run, they shelved it for a couple weeks, you had to ask the president and ask the administration for their version of events. You didn't have to say they were true. You didn't have to only represent what Trump and his administration said about a specific story, about El Salvador and prisons and whatnot, but you had to at least ask them. You had to throw the question that way so their response could be within the story, and then you keep going and doing your own thing with whatever you're claiming happened. The story inevitably aired, by the way, and it was almost identical to the version that they shelved for a couple weeks before asking for comment. It's amazing that was seen as someone, upending journalism, upending non-biased versions of opinion and reporting, just saying you got to get the other side's opinion. You got to get the other side's response before you claim that they refuse to even talk to you. That's a lie. You can't do that. You can't say they had no comment if you don't give them the chance to have a comment. It's kind of insane. But there's just so much of this going on, to be honest, that it was amazing the way that mainstream media handled that. All right, I do want to play one last thing. This is about California. I did think this was interesting, too. The U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, his name is Bill Asali, I think, Asali. He was asked a question about what they're going to do, what kind of investigation is going to occur, what they're already trying to do as far as detect any fraud within Los Angeles, within California, and their election system. His answer was pretty interesting.
Also wrote this on X today, quoting here, "My office will not look the other way. We will investigate and prosecute. Every legal vote deserves to be counted. Every illegal vote cancels one out." We're not saying you found any evidence of illegality at all, but this thing needs to be looked into. This thing has taken a long time.
Yeah, well, you'll never find it if you don't look for it.
Right.
And that's our point. Is our eyes are open, our ears are open. We have charged election fraud. We announced a case last month. We have multiple other investigations, which I can't talk about. I can't get into the specifics, but they are ongoing. The problem is California's election system sucks. That's a legal position.
I think everybody would be in consensus on that.
The fundamental problem is their voter rolls are filthy, dirty, and they won't give us access. We are suing them. We need to get the voter rolls. We need to audit them. That's the only way we're going to clean this up.
I think that's hilarious for him to say that the official legal position is that the California voter rolls suck. Their whole system sucks. Yes, when people in foreign countries can count millions and millions of votes quicker than you can count a couple 100,000 in California, you have a significant problem. Beyond that, too, when we also can know who won the Powerball, where they bought their Powerball ticket from, and you claim you can't know who won an election for multiple weeks until, surprisingly, the candidate you least want to be in the race, at least for the mayoral race, is now losing to the candidate you probably most wanted to be in that race. That's the thing they miss. I will say this before I take a break. The excuse, and usually the left's version of a explanation for why Spencer Pratt has had nothing stolen from him. They claim it makes no sense because Bass would like to run against Pratt. Having a more progressive, crazier left-leaning candidate within that race is worse for Democrats because it'll be competitive between the two. That both of those politicians are likely to get a similar amount of support and votes, and with Pratt out of the race, it'll be neck and neck as to who wins. CNN, I think, was one of the places that did this, where they said it just makes no sense because the mayoral race is now more competitive. But here's the thing. If you're the machine, if you're the lefties, and if you wanted the craziest, most insane person to be in the race, and she wasn't in the race before, guess what's happening now? She's in the race now. So I think that people who are trying to use this as proof that it couldn't possibly be rigged. You know what? I might as well play that audio too, since I'm talking about it so much. We might as well hit play on it. This is hilarious to me because this is the person that the corrupt people would want the most to be in the race and not out of the race. They'd want to replace Karen Bass with Rahman, with someone who's really, really crazy.
If it were to end today, which it won't, but if it were to end today, the top two people advancing would be Democrats. Now, there are Republicans all kinds of upset that this is the way California counts votes. The president says that it's rigged somehow. It's not. This is just the way they do it. But the thing is, the person who might be most upset about all of this, not a Republican, but the incumbent mayor of Los Angeles, Democrat Karen Bass. With us now is Chief Data Analyst Harry Etten. What am I talking about here?
Yeah, this is the dumbest conspiracy theory I have ever heard because the Democratic establishment and Karen Bass wanted Spencer Pratt in the runoff. They don't want any part to do with Nithya Raman. Why is that? Because just take a look here. Okay, mayor runoff polls, Bass versus opponent versus Pratt. Bass would have crushed Pratt by 18 points. That's what the polling showed. Look at how she does against Nithya Raman, on the other hand. Raman is ahead by 4 points.
No!
Bass has a real race.
The crazy far left person is actually ahead of the person who's still really, really left. But somehow, some way, Raman is even further to the left than Karen Bass is. Somehow they're going to force her into the race. And this is something that would make the Democratic establishment mad. Do you know who the mayor of New York is right now? Do you have any idea who people that are winning positions? Look at Tallarico and how he's running a race that's insanely far left in a place like Texas. You really think that this is somehow proof that a conspiracy didn't happen and that people who might be capable of fudging some numbers wouldn't have wanted this outcome for a very different reason, to install someone else into this position of power other than even Karen Bass? It's insane that they're actually going to go that road and say somehow this disproves that idea, even if Pratt might not have beaten Bass. I think the real problem for some out there is that the person they most wanted in that race wasn't going to wind up in it, and that made them mad. All right, we'll take one more break. We'll come back. We'll do some silly stuff. I'll talk a little bit more about basketball because I am excited for Game 3 tonight. I know I'm probably in the minority. A lot of people in Texas want to see the Spurs win. I was at a bar on Friday with my wife to watch the game, and definitely a lot more people in the audience were Spurs fans than Knicks fans. They were there. At least in the bar I was in here in Houston. But anyway, I'll talk a little bit about that, a few other things. This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas.
Spring deals are popping up early at Lowe's. Right now, get 4 bags of Stay Green 2 cubic foot mulch for just $10. Plus, save $20 on an Ego 56-volt string trimmer, now just $199. Spring starts better when you save early. Don't miss out. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/18. Mulch offer excludes Hawaii. Selection varies by location. While supplies last.
You know, where we go in life matters, and what we do matters. And we know that taking the wrong road won't produce the best outcomes. Hi, I'm Kathy with Baker Mortgage, and we want you to take the right path when it comes to your mortgage. You know, we live in a world of information overload, but always consider the source. And these are not generally going to be from your big bank or a random offer that comes across your screen. Remember, you're always going to get a better deal on one that you go looking for than one that comes looking for you. You need to deal with somebody who gives a you-know-what, whether or not you're happy in the end. At Baker Mortgage, we do it right. We haven't been around for 68 years because we're lucky. We don't sell CDs, insurance, or anything else. We just provide a great mortgage experience. Isn't that what you're looking for? Call us at Baker Mortgage. I promise you'll be glad you did. We're at 281-313-MOVE or go directly to bakermortgage.com.
Equal housing lender. License number 263213.
Beautiful and healthy trees do increase your property value, but the key word here is healthy. Sick, ugly trees will actually decrease the value of your home. That's why I recommend you call Lewis Flory with Ability Tree Experts at 281-441-4179. They can spot insect and disease problems the average person will never see. They will make sure your trees are properly pruned to allow sunlight and fresh air into the canopy and allow strong winds to blow through instead of damaging your tree. Call Lewis Flory today. That's 281-441-4179. Ability Tree Experts, Houston's leading tree care professionals.
Everyone knows the BBB is the Better Business Bureau, but depending on what you need, it's the Better Plumber Bureau, the Better Auto Mechanic Bureau, the Better Accountant Bureau. That's because the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better check that business out first so you don't get ripped off bureau. Be smart. Always look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers in small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers in big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and bored babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
This is the Craig Collins Show, KSEV, KGBC, the voice of Texas. The New York Knicks will be playing the San Antonio Spurs tonight at Madison Square Garden. Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The New York Knicks have already won 2 of those games. The second game, the game that happened on Friday night, they shouldn't have won. A lot of the metrics say they shouldn't have won. Actually, the Cavs coach, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in the last round made a ridiculous comment that went viral all over social media where, like, advanced stats claim that the Cavs should have actually been beating the Knicks in their series. I think 4 games in, it was like 3-1 or something. The Knicks, of course, didn't lose any games out of the Cavaliers. The final score does matter. Who actually wins the game is important. Wemby throwing the ball away at the end after the rebound, after the missed shot from Jalen Brunson. That was a bad moment. That didn't look very good. Also taking only 4 shots in the first half uniquely looked bad for a 22-year-old player that's supposed to be the face of the league moving forward. But tonight's a different night. Wemby has said he's much more confident, and the lights will be very bright in Madison Square Garden. The president will also be there. But that game gets started in about half an hour. I think that tip-off is just after 7:30 Central Time, so 40 minutes or so. I'm very, very much looking forward to Game 3. I do think it's a must-win for San Antonio. Not just because in the NBA itself, you've never seen a team come back from down 3-0, but also because you're going to have to play another 2 games in New York. If you were to go down 3-0 and somehow make a miraculous comeback, it would take 2 more Madison Square Garden games to do it. And I don't think the Knicks will lose 3 times, or will lose, twice in Madison Square Garden if they win tonight. I think that they would definitely win one of the next 2 games at home at least, if not one of 4 attempts to close out the series. But I find this to be a uniquely interesting thing, partly because I was born in New Jersey myself and grew up on the East Coast. And I do think that people who are mad at Trump for going are being ridiculous and insane. All right, let's play some other stuff, some sillier stuff before we get out of here. A couple things, unless, I don't know, if Phil wanted to comment on the NBA. I know that he does watch it. So I don't know if producer Phil wanted to jump in at all, give his take on what's going on. Go ahead.
Spurs in 7.
You're saying Spurs in 7. Wait, are you claiming the Spurs win tonight then?
I don't think they have a choice, honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's all on them at this point.
I know you're going to be back on Thursday. So if the Knicks win tonight, and I ask you again on Thursday if you think the Spurs are still winning the series, the answer is going to be no, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
after tonight, it's going to determine who wins the championship.
Yeah, well, and Wemby does play well in Madison Square Garden. Most really good players play well in Madison Square Garden, even if they're the away team coming in there, because it's a uniquely fun place to play basketball. The arena is going to be insane.
I feel as though he has the potential. It's just he's still kind of young, and the
Yeah.
Knicks are stacked. They ain't lost a game in a long time.
They have not lost a game in a long time.
That momentum is building slowly but surely.
Yes, they've won 13 consecutive games at this point.
Yeah.
They haven't lost for over a month.
Yeah.
It's something.
The momentum is already there. I think the Knicks got it.
Well, and dude, if you watched game 2, the end of that game, I was shocked that the Spurs actually lost.
Yeah, but you know the Spurs still a fairly young team.
They're
still trying to learn how to win a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm concerned, I see that fire in their eye. That's why I say Spurs in 7. Because
Fair
even though
enough,
the
man.
Knicks are impressive and they do have that momentum right now.
Yeah.
I still do believe.
Well, and
Spurs
if
can
I'm
pull it
going to go a little bit further into this, and I'm not really supposed to because, again, this isn't a sports show, but darn it, we're here. Karl Anthony Towns is actually dominating Wemby.
Yeah, he's playing great.
Right. On the court, I think Towns has like a plus 15 or something to Wemby, which is the amount of points that his team scores compares to the other team when Wemby's in the game. So Towns is dominating him. Towns is not even a all-defensive player in the world of the NBA. Nope. He wasn't voted that at all. And actually, another Knick is on one of the NBA all-defensive teams. So people really thought that he was going to be guarded by somebody else. But Towns probably deserves the MVP right now. He won't get it. Jalen Brunson would get it if the Knicks win.
Of course.
And Jalen has hit some end-of-the-game shots that probably make sense too. But I think Towns has been the best player on the court.
I agree.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
I don't know if that'll keep happening. I'm curious if it'll keep happening because you would think that if Wemby, see, this isn't what we were supposed to do, but darn it, we're doing it now. If Wemby plays to his ability level and doesn't get a little bit, I think, rattled by the moment. And he even said that in the postgame after game 2, that maybe the emotion of winning the Western Conference Finals might have gotten to him. He might have thought too much about the victory of beating, SGA and everybody and not then getting to this round and having to actually beat the Knicks. So maybe there's a challenge there. I don't know.
Job not finished.
The job's not finished. That's Kobe Bryant. The job not finished. Why aren't you smiling, Kobe? You're up 2 games to none. Is the job finished? Job's not finished. I don't think so.
Yep.
Oh, it's so great. Kobe Bryant was amazing. Amazing guy. Amazing. You know what's funny about Kobe? I'll say this before we get out of here, now that it's just a basketball chat. As a big Michael Jordan fan growing up, I hated Kobe when he first hit the league. 18-year-old guy, thought he was amazing. But after Kobe retired, that relationship between Michael and Kobe and just the way Kobe carried himself was so awesome. He became such a likable guy and a guy that would have done a tremendous amount of stuff, I think, in film, for sports, in movies and whatnot. And it's such a tragedy that he passed away at such a young age that the crash and everything happened, because he had become such an interesting, I think, very personable, even different than Jordan. Jordan kind of shied away from the limelight, and Kobe found a way to utilize it that was really cool. So I wound up really liking Kobe Bryant, the person, after his career was over.
R.I.P. Kobe, man. Kobe had that work ethic out
Yes.
of this world, so he knows how to win. That's why
Yeah.
I said job not finished.
Mamba mentality, man.
Yeah.
He got that from MJ, by the way. Not the name, but the idea. Anyway, all right, we're out of here. We're done. That's the whole show. Good luck to me, to the Knicks in Game 3. Producer Phil is saying good luck to the Spurs, and I think Wemby specifically, because he will be the face of the league. He will be the it person in the NBA for years to come now. I think LeBron is definitely no longer that guy. Might even retire this year or next year. It's definitely going to be Wemby moving forward, Victor Wembanyama. So we'll see. But that's it. That's the whole show. Thrilled to be with you. Sorry to anybody that doesn't like the sports talk, but hey, Trump's going to be at the game. We're allowed to talk about it. See you guys next time.
You're listening to the Voice of Texas.